And it sounds like, yeah, of course. Oh my God.
That's like this black shirt.
When I say math, you say fluency. Math.
Fluency.
Math.
Fluency.
Fluency. First of all, welcome. I missed you last Wednesday, and I'm going to give a quick apology before I give a good for all and announce our guest. First of all, thank you for persevering 3 days without me and most of the time without Susan, and for everyone who stepped up. Me spending that time at Science Cap with Felicity was amazing, wonderful to see Science Cap through eyes. And I've never had so much exercise in 3 days because pacing is all uphill and downhill, and the wheelchair downhill is even harder because if I let go of her, she's in big trouble. And so like pushing a wheelchair around that camp for 3 days, I felt like in really good shape. And so thank you for that time. And I'm gonna give another apology though. I'm gonna be out a lot, and definitely on Mondays and moving forward. As you know, Josh Buckley is the MEA president for you. I'm the MASA president-elect for principals, and so I'm now in the meet and confer every Monday after school as the MESA group and the MEA group and MASA get together to work on working conditions for teachers. And so that's going to be every Monday, and I have a lot of meetings with the superintendents scheduled between now and end of April. So I apologize, when I'm not here in the afternoon, that's where I'm at. I would love to be leaving early to spend time with my family, but that's not what's happening. And I have one with MEA and MASA and Dr. Conley at 4 o'clock today, so I'll leave this early too. So apology, just so you know where I'm at. And for everyone to know, Susan's birthday's on Saturday, and she won't be here. So let's make sure your students and you, or whatever, flood her desk so when she comes back next Wednesday or Thursday, she still feels the love from us. Or can they get it to you before Friday morning?
Yep.
If you get anything to Holly before Friday morning, there's a contingency that's going to go surprise her at Lowell with a birthday cake and everything, just like we do for everyone else in the office. So if you get it there before there, but the principal she's covering for will be back next Tuesday, so we have her Wednesday or Thursday based on the needs at Edison, who she's missed more than she's been here while she's been out. Anything for the good of all before I introduce our guests? Yes?
For 3rd through 6th grade teachers, if you have not done the TA certification video, if you could please do that no later than Friday. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else for the good of all? All right, I'm going to introduce Nye and John Huba, our former state superintendent of schools, and they're with the Math Fluency project. You may have heard Susan talk about the math program she wanted to bring you earlier in the year, and the only thing that delayed it was our budgets for Title were on hold for a long time. So we're going to launch it now, between now and next year, to do a full launch next year, and I'll hand the rest over to the two of you.
Excellent.
Or tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Just to get started, so just to show up, like who here has heard about this program? It doesn't need to be higher, or I don't want too high. No one's gonna get neck strain. What's the lowest we can get so we can still point
What's
at it?
that?
What's the lowest we can get so we can still point at it?
Oh, you want one?
Yeah, we want
my
one.
bad.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
okay.
should micromanage things about asking.
Take charge,
They
guy.
all laugh because I know that's not it.
Oh, that's too low. There we go, optimal height. Anyway, okay, so who here's heard about this program throughout the campus for the past year? Anybody? All right, so I know that this is a brand new introduction for y'all with this math program. So we're going to be doing this in a few steps. So first thing we're going to do is this isn't just a training to just show you how to use it. We're going to go into the science behind it. There's actually 9 scientific principles that Mr. Humberthal came up with to make the magic work. Then we're going to go into a mock scenario where all of you are going to be entering into the system and playing the game as a student. So then you're going to actually experience it firsthand. We're going to walk through that process of the first game, what's going to happen, what to expect, and I'm going to talk about it, and then we're going to go in and do start a second one to kind of show you the dynamics and how it changes. If you have any questions during the process, please go ahead. We're aiming to get through this entire ordeal in about an hour and 15 minutes.
And
so.
let me assure you, it's not going to be an order.
I was just kidding. It's actually very exciting. And we're going to move forward. So I just want to show of hands to kind of know where everyone's at. So where's kinder? So we got, and where's first grade? Okay, back there. Second. All right, third, fourth, fifth. Okay, you're a little scattered. And sixth grade. Okay, cool. Awesome. And then we got special ed. And what other category was there? There's another one. I don't know which school we have.
Intervention?
Intervention. Oh yeah, intervention specialist. Okay, great. Perfect. All right, so we're gonna go into the science about it. So I'm gonna let Mr. Hubathal, who, as you know, has done a lot of work in the state, and he's gonna talk about how this came about in the history a little bit.
So when I started at the Department of Education, one of the projects we started immediately, and had the code name of Free Throws, was we brought together all the latest research in memory, learning, and motivation. And our idea and our mission was to create an environment where students grow academically in math faster than they've ever grown before. So the idea was to break through the speed of light, or the speed of sound, if you might say it, the limit, the fastest a school has ever gone before in moving kids up the academic achievement ladder. That project went really well when I was at the department. One Saturday, we started a large classroom of students down at Sunnyside High School, and they did 38,000 math problems in one day. So we knew we were on the right track. But the project wasn't finished when I got done at the department, and Super Geek here
It's my official name.
agreed to take over and support the project. So we moved into a laboratory class, and it was a group of fourth grade students, and I went around to each one and I asked each one, what's 5 plus 4? And none of them could say 9. So this was a school for exceptionally at-risk students, and about 2/3 of them could do it on their fingers, but about 1/3 couldn't even do it on their fingers. And I had 4 students who were 0 on AZ merit. So this was an extremely challenging environment to do this. Now, Nai's going to show you a video of one of those students who could do it on his fingers when we started. And this is him after about 40 days in the project.
So you can see him do math problems, and just to kind of set a little context, you know, during the game itself, their challenge is to answer as many math problems as they can in 1 minute. So this is a 1-minute round. And here he goes. And yeah, this is about 40 days, 2 months.
Good? Okay.
So here he goes answering math problems, and every single square on the right there, a green square, means he's getting it right.
Wow.
Spoiler alert, he's getting all of them correct. This 1 minute. You notice the X is on this side, it's on that side, it's on this side of the minus sign. Maybe it's this side. So he's definitely performing very well, right? It's random. It's also sophisticated in the sense that there's over 1,000 levels that the kids go through.
So there's over 1,000 levels, and you're looking at 4 different levels, 4 different problem types that you're seeing flash here as X moves around. And it goes from addition to subtraction. And if you'll notice over here, his partner, well, a little bit late, but his partner was going just as fast as him. So it's not one student.
60 and 0 wrong. Look at that. That's incredible.
And so far that day, he's done 235 math problems. So he could keep up quite a pace.
So I was going to kind of show a little progression here. This is him about 2 months later, about let's say 80 days into the process. Kind of show you.
You like, I have a bunch of just as me. All right, let's go see that again there.
little more sophisticated.
So now you see 4 terms, not 3 terms. Before, he was working on 3-term problems, now he's working on 4-term problems. Some words are in there to help with the path to comprehension.
So I'm just gonna fast forward till we get to the end.
56 right and 0 wrong.
So a little bit slower, 4 terms, a little bit slower, but not much slower.
And the last one is gonna show you like really 2-3 weeks later.
Round on fourth generation and have 209,000 points and 17,353 questions.
Okay, let's do it.
So can you believe that just a few months ago he did not like math at all? Let's just stop at 1 so we can try to
So
comprehend
if
it.
Chromie has $11, he needs X to make a total of 14. A relatively simple one-step problem, but it requires that you have comprehension of what's going on there. It requires that you read it too, to know if you're doing addition or subtraction.
So, as you know, so he's shown great promise with the math program. So to get good at anything, you have to do it a lot.
So the question is, how do you take a group of highly at-risk students who don't like math, have not been able to develop any skill in it, and move them to this level of fluency? And the answer is, Durrani did over 1,000 math problems a day in those 40 days. Over 1,000. So then the next question is, how in the world do you get at-risk students who don't like math to all of a sudden kick in and be motivated enough to do 1,000 math problems a day? And the answer is 9 key scientific principles were integrated into this environment. And all 9 were necessary for its success. Any one is missing, the whole thing doesn't work. You don't pull it off. So what we're going to do is go through those principles real fast here. And
So one of the key aspects is you saw him doing math problems on his own terminal, but he's actually part of the whole group. So this is like an example of what's projected in front of the classroom. So you can see there's a leaderboard. So you can see it's kind of, there's a little red line right there that shows the beginning, and it progresses to yellow, and then eventually to something like this, where we have
Okay.
completion.
so you have a scoreboard up at the front, and this scoreboard is critical for all the motivational elements. And you see that the primary element here is that blue bar up across the top. That is the team score. And it turns out the human brain is uniquely motivated by a team score. Boy, do we love team sports. We were designed to be part of a team and everything about your brain. And so what we've done is brought that into the mathematical environment. But it's not any team score that motivates the human brain. It's an instantaneous team score. How are we doing right now, this split second? So that bar up there starts out blank, and it's moving real time as the class is working towards its goal that day. And it goes red, yellow. It turns yellow when they get to 50%, and then it turns green when they get to 90%, and then boom, it blows blue when the class has achieved its objective. And when that class achieves its objective, that means right there as a class, they've done more math than hundreds of thousands of students across the country. So you've already achieved a lot of time on task work. Now, it turns out that a team score is not enough, not nearly enough to pull this off. You're talking about one of the 9 scientific principles. Principle number 2 is you have to hold each student accountable for what their contribution is to that team score. But it's also not enough to hold them accountable. You have to customize that accountability to their level of ability and their level of motivation. So the computer watches them and sets them a goal that's uniquely calibrated to their skills and their ability. What can they do? So the LeBron James of mathematics up here is doing 500 math problems a day. Durrani sometimes peaked out at 3,000, going far past his goal. And a special ed student here, they are both blue, one doing over 500 math problems and the other doing 70. But if you hold a student accountable for that 70, and if that student does 70 math problems a day, you can develop real skills at 70 math problems a day. Only 95% of the students in this country don't do 70 math problems a day.
So that is like the most powerful effect that we've seen is like, especially with special ed students, or even ELL, but special ed specifically, because like instead of being segregated or pulled away for specials, now they're doing this math game that's all part of the same group, they're part of the same team. Their contributions may be different, but now they feel included, and that elevates them, their attitudes, their motivation, and it makes it so that they feel like, yes, I'm doing something and I want to do math problems, which will help improve their ability.
Math is a social activity. It becomes, when you do this much math, it becomes part of their identity, and it flows past just this game on into their regular math instruction.
So so I'm going to take a second here to kind of interpret this, the different effects. So first thing we've done is the system has calculated a goal for this session of 25,000 points. So what we're saying is in about 10 to 15 minutes, the class should be able to make it to 25,000 points and make it to blue. So that's our calculation. So that's easily attainable, achievable, and it's calculated based on their abilities. And then the individual students have their own abilities calculated. So when you look at these colors here, the colors don't mean anything other than their progress to goal or their percentage to goal. So when they hit 100%, they turn blue. So we see we have 2 students who are red. That means they haven't made it halfway. We have a few yellows and a few greens. Now, as a teacher, when you look at this, you think of this as this is like my pace for the students. Every single student should be moving at approximately the same pace because that's how we've adapted the system and calculated it. But then, these students here, what's going on? Why are they slowing down? So this allows you as a teacher to do something that most of the time you can never do in real life, is to perform real-time RTI. So now you're looking at this, you go, okay, I need to go help Alizon here, because Alizon is slowing down. What's the reason behind it? So you can go to that student, see what kind of problems they're working on, understand that this problem type is like something that's tripping them up, help them, give them some hints and tips, and then get them over the hurdle. A lot of it's just like this tiny little like aha moment that they go, oh, I see it now, and they start working on that problem type, master it, and then move up the ladder. So the ladder is actually very important because everyone starts off on the same ladder. So like any video game, you start off at level 1 and you make your way through it. I'm an experienced gamer, so I can make it through level 1 through 50 probably a lot faster than some of you out there. I'm assuming that most of you are not gamers. So because I'm an experienced gamer. So like anything else, we look at it this way. A 2nd grader will take longer to climb the ladder than a 6th grader, but they're all climbing the same ladder. But the difference is, as the 6th graders climb the ladder, like getting to level 1, level 2, level 10, level 15, 16, 17, and they get to level 18, and all of a sudden they notice that I'm starting to make errors because level 18 represents a standard or a rung in their knowledge, and it turns up as it's a gap in their knowledge about that specific standard. So they work on it, they slow down, you notice that they're having problems with that problem type, you help them out right there in real time, they work on it for a couple of days, they repair that rung, and then lo and behold, that's actually foundational to multiple rungs up the ladder, and it repairs that. So that's one thing we call the top of the ladder syndrome, because as a 6th grader or 5th grader or 4th grader, you're trying to teach them the standard. So you have to teach them what's required to you, by the pacing guide. But a lot of times, these students are standing at the top of this ladder trying to process the information you're giving them while it's missing all these rungs. So this ladder is currently completely out of balance. So they're spending all their cognitive resources to try to keep that ladder in balance, leaving nothing left so that they could actually take on the new information. So it just goes in one ear out the other, they spit out the answer, and then they move on. They never really learn the information. But by repairing this ladder, it makes it sturdier, it gives them extra cognitive resources to process the information you try to teach them, and then lo and behold, they start learning again. So this ladder, although very rickety, will become firmer and firmer as they're moving up the ladder. So that real-time RTI is vitally important because, you need to actively participate in the classroom and monitor that.
These red bars are really important, and when I was in the laboratory class, as soon as we would get up and get started, I'd immediately be watching for the length of these bars because they're all red when they start. And I'm looking for the shortest bar, and I'm headed over to that student. So I had some students who had just developed this habit of dropping into a daydreaming state. And they were just like that all the time. So I'd have to go over and say, Hezekiah, show me what you can do. And he would play a game and I'd watch him and I'd say, look, you're gonna need to do 5 more games like that to hit your goal. Can you do it? And he invariably said, yes, all I need to do is get him kick-started. So you have to manage, I call it managing the tail, which means that you have to actively find out. Some students might have had a trauma the previous night and might still be recovering from that. Invariably, just the words, show me what you can do, was the magic, it was the magic juice. They would always want to show me what they could do, and they would take off and do it, and once they got it going, they could keep on moving. But you have to, as a teacher, go to the short bars and see what's going on and get them kick-started.
So another really key scientific principle is what we call the success zone. This is what really keeps them really motivated. So
Yeah, Terrence Scott in Kentucky has done a ton of work on this, and what he found is that a student has to experience 3 successes for every 1 failure to be in an optimized state of learning. And that's a minimum of 3. So we try to hold them up above that. You as a teacher are going to have to assist on that, because as good as the computer is at trying to keep them into that success zone, it takes a little bit of assistance. And that's where managing the short bars is a critical part of the whole thing. Being in motion, moving from student to student, monitoring what's going on, that type of thing, encouraging students.
So how it works is like, let's say they're working on level 17. So 50% of the problem types are coming from the level 17 item bank. But then we also introduced what we call forward pressure, 20% coming from the next levels up, slowly being spiraled into the problem type process. So they may be making a little error, but that's okay. Their brain's starting to be acclimated to that. But then 30% are coming from the levels they previously mastered, so that they're constantly being reinforced on something that they've already shown proficiency on. So that keeps them in the success zone. But like John said, you as a teacher need to be there to intervene, to help them there. But it spirals them up into the next level when they show mastery. But it could also spiral them down, because if they show an extreme degradation of that level, then we're going to bring it back to something that's better for them as well. So when we take all these sciences together, and that's just a few, we still have a few more we'll cover. This is kind of like the result that we get from these students. Now, this is third grade class. So do you guys want to go home? Do you want to keep playing? Yeah? So by putting these principles together, you can see that the game itself did not look like any video game. It doesn't look like probably some of the products you use, like Dreambox or ST or what's the other one, Prodigy. They might use Prodigy, you really don't learn anything in that game. but realistically, but we take these sciences and it makes them feel like it's a video game.
Let's think about what we just saw with this class. You heard the enthusiasm they had, the one student crying out. And if you look across this class, every student has already hit goal. The class has already hit goal, but you see 8 students still pounding away because they've gotten so motivated. So it lets you know that you've tapped into intrinsic motivation, and it's now all of a sudden they want to put points on the board for the team. So,
Oops, sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, so here's another fun little
Yes. Oh, that's a good question.
Oops.
I had a number of you ask. So I have a number of you ask me, can you do this at home? Well, so who here wants to do it at home? Raise your hand. Wow, you guys actually want to answer math problems at home? That is impressive. So it's not up to me. You have to ask your teacher if that's something she wants to have. So. All right. Okay.
So this is this class focused heavily on ELL and special needs, and those classes we've seen the most tremendous response from. Like when we were in that class launching it, like we had kids walking their computers up to us and showing the levels that they reached, like the badges they earned, how many points they got that round, and this is because they were so proud of that level of accomplishment. You had a question?
So if you were to incorporate that at home, because do you keep a same goal? Because like I'm trying to look at it as you talked about it being a low risk, so I'm also assuming you know, it might be a low income area as well. So how do you?
It's optional,
put-
so we don't tell people to assign it as homework, as something, but if they want to do it, if they want to do it on their Xbox or PlayStation or for a tablet or.
Does it allow
And
like?
we'll go through a specific procedure whereby you can set a class goal for their homework, and then, because the score is set at 0 when you go home, you'll come back the next morning, and when you look at the score, you'll know whether they did their whether as a class, they did their homework goal or not. So the trick in making that successful is to select a goal that enough of them will participate and they will achieve that goal. So that everything about this program is set on success. So so the key will be, okay, wow, you guys did 2,000 points of math last night, or you did 1,000 math problems last night. Can we set a goal of 1,050? You know, so you set a class goal, but make it achievable, because you know not all the students will be participating, and you want to build up a team spirit where they all it starts to become infectious. The team spirit is tougher to grow at home because they're not with their peers. The energy here is peers, so you'll have to grow that over time by setting achievable goals.
There are definitely multiple strategies to incorporate with that. But one of the things that we say is, like, you know, if they're enthusiastic and they want to do it, you know, some teachers say no, but we just say, well, you know, if you want to log in on your phone or a tablet or whatever device that can actually get to the site, they could do it. But those are like strategies that we could discuss later. But because there's a lot of different approaches, and we've seen a lot of great creative approaches. But like what John said, you know, creating that team, it's all about culture. And culture is one of the most important things that we speak about in the program, because the program itself is very sophisticated, it's very powerful, but without you managing the classroom and without establishing a team culture of success, you know, it can only go so far. Like, you've seen it probably done over time and time again. You introduce something, it goes well for a few weeks, and then it starts to die off. So what culture brings is, it brings this culture, this habit, this formula of, like, you know, we're gonna make our team go every day. And one of the examples I want to talk about, kind of show you here, is like in a Native American school down at Gila River, you know, in Sacaton by Casa Grande, is that for them, you know, building that culture was the utmost important, because they have a population of kids where they have high absentee rates, and then you know, a lot of students who don't even want to go to school, and in their implementation there, they focus heavily on culture.
Hi, I'm Wanda Burton. I'm the principal here at Sacaton Elementary School. The students have started talking about, at recess time, what their goals are. So now they're talking about math at recess time. When I walk them out for the buses in the afternoon, I have students running up to say bye to me, just so that they can share with me where they're at with their goals and how close they are to meeting their class goals. And they know those numbers. It's not something they're guessing at. They know exactly how many correct problems they have. They know exactly how many more they need. So they're thinking the math, and they're thinking their goals, and they're celebrating their successes, and they brag on themselves, but they also brag about their classmates. So it's a whole group effort. It's no longer just me, myself, and I. They're taking pride in their own work. They're meeting their goals. They're achieving their goals, and they are data-driven for themselves on how they're getting better faster.
So these kids are smart. You know, they know how well they're doing in their abilities, and you know, it's also, you know, the video game world. So in the video game world, you're paying attention to these stats, these little indicators all the time, and those are things to be
They have a
proud of.
3rd grade class there that's done a little over 325,000 math problems correctly since the beginning of the year.
And the most important thing,
just amazing.
one of the most amazing things we heard from them recently is that in the whole entire district, they met their attendance daily rate for the classes that are running a program, and have the highest level of attendance in those classes, because they created that culture of success. So now these kids are communicating, they're social, they're active, and they're loving it. It's all about building that teamwork, that team success, and also, you know, making sure it's a collective celebration too. So when the class hits goal, everyone celebrates. We made our goal today. You know, we're going to demonstrate that during our live example. But also, you know, you also set up like milestone goals, and you have like pizza parties or ice cream parties, you know, like we have here. And then those things like really drive home that we're all doing this together, and we're all going to make our goal and become successful. So, so I just want to show you kind of like a little bit about the gains that we saw, and we're hoping that we can even double that here in Mesa. Yeah.
On the AZ merit test, from the end of 3rd grade to the end of 8th grade, the typical student gains 25 points a year across that spectrum. And in the laboratory class, we gained 44 points, which was the equivalent of 1.7 years. And then we had a class set up in Greenway. Evidently, they had better classroom management skills than I have, and they got 1.8. They're on a path for 1.8 academic years this year.
Yeah, and actually that was a very interesting experiment, because what they did was they had one teacher taught 6 different classes, and she selected one class out of the group to run this program, and that one class got the bump. So it's like, wow, you know, it was like a triple take. Like, how the heck did that happen? But you can see here, you know, we had 3 students getting over 100. That's 4 years of growth in that one academic year. And then we have here students who didn't make 25, but these are our special ed students, and they show growth, which is quite incredible. But we look at it like 44, like, you know, that's above the statewide average, which is good. But when you compare that to the national best, you know, there's a study there that
They Sean Reardon of Stanford did a national study where he ranked every school district in the nation, and when you convert those rankings to AZ merit points, the top 1% got an extra 7 points a year. Where in the lab class, we got an extra 19 points a year. So these were very good gains. That school scored the maximum possible points that you can get out of academic gain towards their letter grade, and they went from a D/F school to a B school in 1 year.
So the sciences is all about getting them to create automaticity. So the only way to get automaticity is through repetition. And this is...
And what happens, what's going on in the brain is that when a student first undertakes a task, or any of us, what they have is a large glucose consumption pattern in the brain. And it's taken a lot of neurons to perform that activity. But as you practice it more and more, it gets down to just a pinpoint. And it's not really this part of the brain, it's over on the math part of the brain, but this just shows you what's going on. And when that happens, it takes very few neurons to do your base level activity, freeing a lot of cognitive capacity to do the more complex stuff required in fractions, ratios, decimals, and percentages. Enables them to go on. We found that students are adding on their fingers. At least we found it was impossible to teach them fractions. It just didn't happen. No matter how many times we went through the teaching of fractions,
so
you have to get these base level operations.
So this like speaks to my earlier example of the ladder. So now this ladder's firm. They're using very little mental power to do the basic operations, and now they could do cartwheels on the ladder or something like that. Okay, so that's some of the science behind it. I mean, there's actually a lot more, but we just wanted to give you an understanding of like where the foundation lies in this. That you know, there's a lot of thought that goes into it, and then now you're going to be able to experience the effects of it. So I'm going to walk you through what we're going to do, like in day 1. So when we introduce the program to the students, you know, we talk about the game itself. So I'm going to go slide in. So you know, first thing we talk about is like you know this is a math game that has over 150 levels. That really excites the kids. We're like, ooh, levels. You know, level really speaks to their vernacular. Like, ooh, 150. That's a lot of levels to master. So they like that. You know, and then we ask them the basic question: what is level 1 in any video game? You know, does anybody know the answer to that here? Anybody? Raise your hand if you know what's level 1. Come on, don't be shy.
It starts out easy.
Starts out easy. Yes. Great. That's a perfect 3rd grade or 4th grade answer. There we go. Starts out easy. So we call it the easy level. We say it's a training level. So what we're doing is we're telling them, okay, you know, it's going to start out easy so that they won't feel like, you know, this is what it's all about. But then they can level up through as fast as they can. But we're also training them that in the first level, it's all about keyboarding. So they're only going to use the keyboard, not use the screen or the mouse after they start. So you see that they're just typing in the answer. So a lot of kids are very familiar with a lot of programs where you have to click on the screen to select the answer, drag manipulatives, etc. So all they're doing is typing a number and then pressing enter.
And you want to get them in the habit of keeping their hands up here. We're used to putting our hands up and taking them down. They need to keep their hands up here and they'll get in that habit quickly. And also you want to get them in the habit of using both hands. We call it the pro tip. So this hand, and they can decide what each hand is going to do, and different students do it different ways, but generally the students tend to do the numbers 1 through 5 with this hand, and 6 through 0 with this hand and the enter key. But some students use the left hand for everything. If you notice, Durrani used his left hand for all the numbers and just used his right hand for the enter key.
Have you ever tried to do it where it's on the keyboards that have like the number key system, and have you noticed an improvement in their goals?
Oh yeah, so if you have access to a 10 key, then with full 10 key keyboards, they become even faster and more proficient than using. So if you have access to that, 10 key, that's a total lost art. Nobody knows that anymore. But that's good. That'll like
Now, you would be a better teacher than me. I even bought them special keypads for. I went out and bought them all keypads. But I could never get them to move over to 10 key.
Well, that's because you started them on the keyboard.
Yeah, but my estimate was Durrani got up to where he could do 81 of those a minute. My high speed, I've been a touch typist my whole life. My high speed was 58 math problems a minute. So he got up to 81 on the keyboard. I estimate that he might have been able to get to 100 if he had done it on 10 key. So if you all have the ability to teach 10 key, that would be an amazing thing to see.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So when we talk about, we tell them like the rounds are 1 minute long, and you're challenged to answer as many questions as you can. Level up requires speed and accuracy. So accuracy is very important. If they don't show accuracy, they're never going to level up because so they have to have both the components of speed and accuracy to get to the higher tiers. And they're going to basically repeat the games over and over again until you reach goal. After an important part is we're going to have them install an app. There's an app that they can install which places an icon on the desktop or the shortcut bar, and then and that'll also save their name and password. We also start the game with a countdown where we get all the kids together. We do a rah-rah moment, and we do a countdown, which we're going to do. And we call out the progress every 3 minutes or so, just kind of call their attention. So
this is pretty important that you say, okay, the class is 25% of this way, or a quarter of the way to the goal, halfway to the goal. So it emphasizes the fact that they're operating as a team, and they have a team objective that they need to get to.
Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to set up a class here, which will then let you be able to let you enter the program. So let's go here. Oops. Oh, I'm not connected. That would be important. Okay, so you're going to be going to the site lms.kpcampus.com, which I'm going to be pulling up here in just a second.
You'll be able to watch it.
Yeah, they can use tablets, mobile devices, iPod touches.
We just added a whole bunch of problems.
Okay, so here we go. Let's go ahead and you don't have to be doing this, I'm doing this right now. It's 2 hours, right?
So the question was, can kindergartners start on this? And we have added a whole bunch of problem types that the older kids can zoom on through, but they give the kindergartners a lot of success, control over the keyboard skis. So it starts out with just number identification. It says type 6, then hit enter. So they just find the number 6, and just simply by finding numbers and hitting enter, they'll get into that flow of that. You'll find out even among kindergartners, a fair amount of them can already add 0 plus 1 and 1 plus 1. So we have those problem types. We also have counting exercises where they go through and count objects and put that number in. So there's a lot of exercises that, and the kindergartners, they tap into this teamwork aspect of this right away, just as fast as the older kids do.
Okay, so there's the website. So once you get to the website, you're going to get to a sign-up screen.
Okay, so everybody, right now on your computers, lms.ktcompass.com.
So it's going to be a few steps. It's going to ask you for your email address. It's going to ask you to create a password. Click on create. And then your second screen, it's going to ask you for some more pieces of information. And then you're going to type, it's going to ask for a course code, and this is the code you're going to enter. Don't worry, you're not going to have to do this with your students because we came up with a process where we're going to be data entering your students in for you so that to minimize keyboarding mistakes. So we actually take care of that task for you. Raise your hand if you have any questions or problems. So let's see how fast we can get everyone into the system.
No, it's in thinking. The screen was upside down, so I had to restart.
And then once you're done, click on Start Learning.
You have to like click around.
Okay, so we're still.
Thank you.
Okay, you're good.
So if you click on the area and it highlights the words, click to the right of the words. That's just a weird bug that we
Oh.
click to the right of the words. Yeah, yeah. Some of you started, but it's okay. You know, we're gonna do a.
Okay, so hold right there.
So. Oh, did you click on forgot password?
Yeah, because I'm
Yeah, create. Yeah. That's the course code.
No.
Yeah.
So you have to put your email.
No, that's the code, that's the course code, password. The password just can't be like
Said Miss Jacobs, you do not call her Grace. You call her Miss Brown. It's a zero, right, Mrs. Brown.
Oh, okay,
I don't know how you
yeah.
got to that next screen without getting that in, but. Okay, so we're almost there. All right.
There, just put your first name.
Anybody need any help? Okay. Yeah, click on Start Learning. Yeah, certainly. All right. Just stay there. You're there. All right, now that we're all at this screen.
And then, yeah, now we're, hold on, don't, not yet, we gotta. Okay, so, let's click to the right one. There you go. So that first
That's the
one.
4 and
So I did that, but
Oh, you already got it. So now click on Start Learning.
I don't have to put it on.
You can.
So,
There you go.
it's very rare. But then once it
Okay,
gets easy.
so you're all ready to go, ready?
You're the only one. Here. All right, good. All right, now that we're there, everyone's in. Everyone got that code? All right, so we're about to get started, but before we get started, we're gonna have all of you install the app. So if you notice underneath your picture on the left, there's a little
This thing right here, you wanna click on this,
click on that.
and then don't do anything more until Nye gives you instructions.
Yep.
So click on this.
Once you click on that, it's gonna pop open and expand an area. Now, you're gonna need to get to the install app button, you're gonna need to hit tab 3 or 4 times on the
So
keyboard.
hit tab 3 times to start, And if you can see, yep, there you got it. If you can see a blue install button there, you are good to, just click on that blue install button.
If you see then you'll see the blue install app button, and then click on that. There you go, you'll see it go blue, it'll turn the blue bar up top. And then click on click on the flower icon again to close it, or the gear icon. Some people call it flowers.
Oh, so you got it.
Yeah. Just close it out. We're not worried.
You just wanted to click on
Okay, so to close it out, click on the gear icon again, and you'll be able to see the start game button. So anybody need any help? Okay, there you go. So, click on the Alright, just wait here. Okay, so alright, so let's go ahead and get moving. John will help you individually. Let's go ahead and get into the first game. So I'm the teacher, so this is the teacher account. So you guys are students right now. So first, to get into the teacher leaderboard, you first click on the hat next to your designation. So we're here at Guerrero Elementary. So I'm gonna click on the hat. Now, if I click on the name, it'll let me change the name. But so just click on the hat. All right. So then you enter into the class. Then we click on the next button here, which is the module. Okay. So that would actually say arithmetic to algebra. So this is the first game, and we're trying to make it to. So the first game, we're trying to evaluate the students. So we won't have the leaderboard pulled up yet because we don't have enough data. So right now our goal is set up at 9,000 points because it's a calculation. It's basically so we're going to get enough points so we could evaluate the students and then come up with their personal goals. Right, so the first game we're going to tell them, okay, we have 15 minutes to make it to the goal. So you guys are pretty good mathematicians, so I'm going to guess you guys will get there in 7 minutes instead of 15 minutes.
No, I think actually 9,000 points is a monster goal. I think it's going to take you closer to 14.
Oh, no, not at all. So right now, so we're going to do the countdown here. So we actually play it up. He's like say, hey, here's our challenge, and then we're going to see how fast we can get there.
Okay, we're going to do the dorky thing. We're going to do the countdown just like the students do. So you're going to count down with me, and we're going to start at 5. Are we ready to go now?
Yeah.
Okay, we are ready to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start game.
Now let that sugar from the ice cream kick in. Okay, so go ahead and start answering math problems.
Yeah, just right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's like your tiny little keyboards.
So x plus 1 equals 1, so 0. You got it? Good job.
I'm overthinking it.
So the first game is an evaluation period. It's going to take a little bit of time. This lets us be able to make those predictions for future rounds. So the first round we just don't know, so we're just going to just have a baseline.
9.
Yep. If you have a problem starting the game, let me know. Oh, okay, that only happens. That's
It only happens to the people that win $1 million.
yeah. No, actually, depending on the grade level, it'll happen when no questions are answered for the very first time ever. He's just trying to calculate a score out of 0. Okay, so after your first round, start the next one. We're racing against the clock here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Got another one here.
Yeah, go now. Go. Keep on going.
Just keep on going once you get into a new game.
All right. Let's sign in. Okay. Oh, now we
Same thing happened at my you can start the game.
Nope. You do your own thing. You do you.
What are yours are slow?
I don't know if it's not working.
That's 3-1.
I'm used to my 10s. I can't.
Did you play this?
Can we play this?
I know, right? They would like that. They would
Long phone, that's not us.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Not 187.
I just barely was thinking. I know, I did that on accident because I clicked enter. My friend checked enter like 14 conditions.
Okay, so class, it's been 2.5 minutes, and oh, look at that, we just.
You're more than halfway to go.
We made it halfway to go, 2.5 minutes. You
More
guys
than
are
halfway
on
to go.
a great pace. You might be faster than fifth, you might be smarter than fifth graders. Good job, everyone.
She's got that decision.
Yes, no, you have any problem?
You're letting me down.
No pressure.
I'm sorry, you're doing great. You performed better whatever.
Yeah, when I logged out and logged in, it worked. I tried both sides of the mouse and finally it worked for me, but it's not working for her.
Hey, don't say one. Don't say one.
That one's terrible.
I don't have a goal set.
I think we're trying to think about it.
Our goal is
Okay, so we're doing really well. It's been 4 minutes since you guys started. We're about, I would say 60% to go. Yeah.
I feel like I'm slowing down.
Got 50 seconds to make it to 5-minute goal. So do you feel the intensity? So once we get really close to goal, you'll start to feel the students get really intense. So you're like, oh wow, we're almost at goal.
Reading into
It's been 5 minutes, so you guys are gonna beat my prediction of 7 minutes. Oh look, and we made the goal. So take a look at that. We made it there in 4 minutes and
Okay, so finish up the game that you're on, and then
4 minutes and 55 seconds.
and then click and finish up the game that you're on. Finish strong, and then click the done
Click
button.
on done. When you're done with this round, click on done. Now this will get you to some stats. Okay. So good job, everyone. You guys are smarter than 6th graders.
I'm supposed to tell a friend I had another.
So at done, it's going to give you some stats. So you can take a look at like how many questions you answered, how many points you earned, and then how much math time. So as a group, you guys did 2 hours of cumulative math. That's great. And as those numbers are going to keep going up and up and up.
Sometimes it doesn't let me finish the last.
Okay. You did 4,324 questions correctly as a group. That's a lot. Alright, so we're going to spend a couple minutes talking about what we just experienced.
Okay, so click on done.
Okay, so this is at this point we talked to the class about what we just experienced. We would ask them a few questions during this time. So we share like so everyone we made the goal. Give yourselves a round of applause. So we try to build that
A
enthusiasm.
key number that was there was that you all did 4,234 math problems, which is about 133 math problems each. So you take that nationwide, 95% of the students across this country did not do 132 math problems.
Now imagine if you guys did that for 15 minutes straight, which you guys could, but we're not gonna spend that much time on it.
So
That's a lot of-
this is the key event, and also by managing your board, you can be sure that the slowest student in your class is going to get a healthy amount of practice of math problems. And what you look carefully through the research, you find that the slowest students in the class are doing 0 math and doing 0 reading. And that's why it's so critical to get that practice in and do it in an accountable way that motivates your slowest students. Because those slowest students are the kids who feel the most emotional anxiety about performance, and they're actually withdrawing from the subject when you need them to be engaging in it. So that's the power of this, the 4,234 math problems of practice.
So let me ask you, so how did you guys feel about that experience for anybody? Huh?
Intense.
Intense? Like it? So just to give you a little idea, the first round, the first round, usually 6th graders usually take about 9 minutes to reach that goal. 5th graders, typically about 10 minutes, depending on the ability. 4th graders will take about 12 minutes, 3rd grade 14, 2nd grade 17 minutes, and then 1st grade about 20 minutes. So those are the different predictors for that. But when we get down to these grades, you know, we want to monitor their attitudes, and they don't have to make it to the first evaluation goal if they can't do it in the first.
You have to override the software, so they can't override it through the computer, but you can come in and you can say, our goal today is you can see that it says 3,000, but you can say, our goal today is to get to 1,000 points. And then you give them an achievable goal, so you establish that and you write it on the board. And after a while, this will become second nature to you. You'll get an idea. Maybe they'll run way past the 1,000 and get almost to 2,000, and so you're like, okay, they got to 1,800, so we can set that as a goal for the next time.
Okay, so after that, we talk about their feelings. So we ask them some very basic questions, like, you know, how did you guys like it? Did you like the game? And we usually get, you know, some of those responses you saw in videos. You know, another key question is like, you know, did they feel like they got faster? So for a lot of these kids, they were stumbling at first, but then in just that little bit of time, they feel like they've accomplished something. And then we want to keep tapping into that feeling, that, you know, and then telling them that this is something that's going to continue to grow over time. In fact, it's actually pretty inspirational to the point where like, you know, one of the schools, we had them start from level 1 again, after doing it for 5 months straight. It took them 3 weeks to make it back to the level that they were at, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I've gotten that much faster." So it just took them 3 weeks, where it took them 5 months to get to, and then they pushed even further. So it's just incredible to see how much speed they get through this whole process. Then the next thing we do is we show them the first two videos that we showed you originally. So we show them those. We talk a little bit about the kid. We tell him, like, you know, he couldn't add 5 plus 4 in start, and look at him now. This will hopefully inspire you to become, you know, to do something like that. And kids get a lot of inspiration from those two videos. Then we ask them if they want to do it again. So this is when we go into the second round, and we're going to talk about the leaderboard. In most cases, we want to do it again immediately, but you can play it. You can say, okay, we can do it again tomorrow. But in a lot of cases, you can actually do it again the second time, just kind of capitalize on that enthusiasm.
Well, we don't encourage you to play 2 games in a day without breaking it up. My students in the lab class used to do it in the morning, and then again in the afternoon.
We're not talking about that right now. This is after the first evaluation.
Yeah. So only on the first day do we run them 2 games.
So
after that, it would just be 1 game.
So now we talk about
the first day they have enough enthusiasm that almost invariably the students themselves will get all excited and demand 2 games. We only have 1 game one time where the students were sort of all tired out and exhausted at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They didn't want to do it.
Yeah, that was like us.
Yeah, only 1 time. We've done this probably 50 times, and
more than that.
Kids get really excited about it.
Okay, so now back to the screen. The leaderboard is turned off by default. You'll want to click on this button here to activate the leaderboard. But you'll need to first log out and log back in to basically refresh the whole process. Then you see this new button here. This is the reset button, and it sets the goal for the students on the next round. Now, depending on your class, and feel it for this, the second game, you know, they may not have a goal, but I'm going to have you guys all log out and log back in, and you'll see a goal now on your screen. So go ahead and click on the sign out button and sign back in.
It's not like
The power button?
Yeah, the power button. Yeah, the whole game is
No,
out.
15 minutes. Sometimes we refer to the game as being sometimes. Yes. But now you have to roll a corner to hit
Guerrero again?
already. And it says you can do one.
no, I don't think so.
Would you stay here?
I think we stay here, then we're going to start game.
All right. So you have pretty monster goals.
This is. So now the student has.
Yeah, that's good. So now you'll see goals on your screen.
Smoking, you have 1,000 point goal. So.
Okay. So now you see your goal. So the goal only happens when you sign out and sign back in. So in most cases, it doesn't matter because you're starting a new day. But that's the only time. So it's very important that you click on this button before the students sign in. So let's say you show up, the students already signed in. They're going to be looking at yesterday's goal, and they've already probably met yesterday's goal. So you want to make sure you hit that button before they do it. Otherwise, you're going to be pulling the data from yesterday, and they'll have to sign out and sign back in again, which is hopefully not a big deal. Now, we see that if we were to run this game again, which we will, we're going to have you guys do a couple more rounds just to kind of see how this moves. It's just, our next goal is 25,475 points. So we're saying that in about 12 minutes, you guys are going to make that goal. And I hit that button at the end of last round so that, so that when you guys were finishing your current round, you actually see some data. So normally this would be completely blank, but since I had you guys just keep going a little bit after we hit goal, I kept it up. Now the leaderboard starts up close, so you have to click on the little button here to open it up. And then there's two keyboarding techniques that you can do to make it work. So you can see that right now the leaderboard doesn't fit on the screen. You hit Control- to shrink the font, or plus depending on how big your class is. So you also hit Function F11 on the keyboard to make it full screen, so you can get more real estate. So those are two things. And these aren't documented, so you don't have to remember it. But now, if we look at the leaderboard, we're going to see a lot of great performance. So we had Allie here with 656 points during that evaluation round. And then we have Maddie, who hasn't finished the evaluation. But this is when we start talking. When we bring this up, this is very important to talk about the leaderboard and to basically stem off negative attitudes about this.
So the thing that I always do is I tell the class that, there are over 300,000, suppose that we're third grade, there are over 300,000 third graders across the country. And if we had a leaderboard with all 300,000 students on it, there would be 300,000 students down below these names right here. So I emphasize that everybody, and invariably, everybody does do a great job. They will get enough math problems done in that time period to do this. So you emphasize that everybody did a great job because of the volume of work that they did.
So remember, like I said, when I hit the reset button, I'm not going to do it right now, it would flush everyone back to 0. But we're going to run through maybe 2 or 3 more rounds so we can kind of see the bars move, so you can kind of get that experience. So the second game, we would do the same thing. We'd say, okay, is everyone ready to have fun? No, I'm not going to reset. I'm just going to start them up from here. Okay. So we're going to do, okay, let's go ahead and play again. We're going to play again? You guys want to play again?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, come on, you guys don't have the level of enthusiasm as a third grader. Come on, do you want to play again? Yes, all right.
Okay, let's do the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, start game.
Start game. All right. And let's see how we do now.
Yeah, you want to take this.
Oh, no, I was thinking 4. No, actually, I was right there.
I just don't feel it.
typed in your email differently the first time. You just 0 points. Oh well, that's all right. That's all right.
It's your info somehow. Yeah.
Okay, something happened to your sheet?
Pull her.
Oh,
She needs to password reset.
oh, you need to reset your password? Well, let's go ahead and. Let's just try typing in the password.
Oh, my God. Can we keep going?
Yes, yes.
Keep going, keep going.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
don't
yep.
stop. Racing against the clock here. I should have saved it.
I can't think my
Well, I should have emailed you a password reset. But, we'll just not worry about it. So, don't worry, when we set up the kid accounts, we make all the passwords 1, 2, 3. Okay, look at that. So we see progress here. It's only been a minute since we started. So at this point, this is when John will look at the board and he'd say, okay, I need to go to Brad and then Anna to check on them. Well, actually, there's a good reason why Brad.
That's probably wise to check on that.
So we can see like we have a distribution. Okay, just updated. We have yellow, so 2 yellows, and then we're seeing good movement. So this is actually a very healthy board. You see that everyone's moving at about the right pace according to predictions. And the predictions are going to get better and better as we move forward. No, she's trying. Wait, right? Yeah, I'll have to take this off. So we see that we're making good progress, and we see that the trend line is green for the most part. That means that everyone has high levels of accuracy. We see 1 yellow, which is Lauren. So Lauren's had some error rates. Sorry, Lauren. But this is like, you can see
Read off all the names,
so if we see one of you turn red, then we go, okay, let's go help out that one. Okay, so let's finish up this last round. So when you're finished, let's finish the round, and then we'll talk about what happens next.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, that's what it is. Oh, it's just,
That was not the answer I was looking for.
okay, we got some more yellows. We're doing good. So we're going to finish the round, and then click on done, and we're going to move on to the next.
Okay.
How far along is it?
Yep, click on done. All right, so once we have everyone's attention, and then we're going to talk through the last scenarios, and then we're good. We'll be good to go. I know it's been a long day, so is everyone pretty excited about what you're experiencing? Yeah.
I know, and there was one question at our table that I could answer, but if anyone else is wondering, this is something that we have already purchased. So it is going to be something that you'll have for all of your kids once we get all the kids added in.
Yep.
So, and hopefully that will be very, very soon, so you'll be able to use it for the rest of this year, and then can use it on the first day of school next year if you choose.
Yeah, so this will give you a time to plan strategies, get some experience under your belt. This is actually a really good time, because you know how the first of the year, how the start of the year is like, right? You're like, and then let's go this one. What do I do? And we did that one. All right, so let's talk about day 2. Remember, hit reset the floor, the students log in, set a timer. It should be about 15 minutes. Let's look at the end. Let's look at the leaderboard again. Oh, look at that. It's really good. We've got a lot of yellows, a lot of greens. So in those few minutes, we all made it to.
So this is a really good looking leaderboard. So in this case here, we would have, you realize that it's not, the issues here are technical issues with password IDs. So that's what, this is the kind of thing that you will see in the beginning.
Oh, actually, Brad got called out on special, so that's why he's So this is a good board. So let's go ahead and you can see how things kind of move, and it'll get more accurate as you move forward. So day 2, click on reset. Now we already talked a little bit about homework. So the cool thing is that when you hit the reset button at the end of the day, we'll log in the next morning. You'll see if any activity has been done between the time you hit reset and the next time you logged in. So it's like, hey, then we say like, we don't assign it as homework, but you could use it as a way to monitor it. Eventually, you can incorporate strategy to set goals, but we don't want you to do that on the onset. So those are things that you can talk together and develop as strategies. Now, another last thing is like, about day 6, this is when you can calculate an epic goal. So an epic goal is something that I'm going to show you right now. Is a really great motivator. So I'll just show it to you really quick. I clicked on the edit button on the top right. Then I click on number 3. And then over here we have 3 options: week, month, or semester. So right now, based on the little data we have, we're saying that you guys will get 146,000 points in a week, 681,000 in a month, and about a semester's time frame, 2 million points. So if we do these goals, let's take a look at, let's set it up this way. We see that we have a third icon now, or third badge, that shows the progress to the epic goal. Now, usually what we do is we look at the calculation and then we round it up to the next logical thing, like 250,000. We usually do the month because month is like far out enough that it's something that's epic, but not and still attainable. But I'm going to do a simple one to kind of show you how the badge looks, where we're about halfway. So let's do 70. All right. So you can see the badge at this point. So you can say, oh, the kids can look at that and pay attention to that and see how.
So you're 1/3 of the way towards your epic goal. These epic goals are important to get them to think bigger than themselves. It's a part of the scientific principles that epic goal, we're all together onto some big journey, and it helps with the motivational aspects of the entire thing. Especially if they know there's a popcorn party or a pizza party or some kind of celebration to be achieved by that epic goal.
So there's different levels, so you can set a class goal. I mean, you can have a class party, but one of the cool things that since you guys are doing it as a school is that you can say, okay, everyone has their own epic goal, and when everybody makes it to their epic goal, we're going to have a grade party. We're going to have a 5th grade party, a 6th grade party. And then you can also set it up, say, hey, when every grade makes it to their goal, we're going to have an epic school party. And you can have this mathematics celebration. And imagine what kind of attitudes and changes that'll be when you get the whole entire school involved. And then you get involved the parents or something like that. Lots of ice cream. So that's basically it. Now, so that's the process that you go through. I mean, it's very simple. You do it a few times, you get the hang of it. But really, it's about the science, it's about the culture, and it's about creating that motivation to be able to level up and move through the different levels. And actually, speaking of level, let's see how far everyone will get. Well, that wasn't enough time, so most people made it to 3. If we were doing it for another 5 or 10 minutes, we would probably see some people at 6. But
so what does the yellow mean, that we're almost at the goal?
You're at over 50%.
Over 50%.
yeah, colors indicate the percentage to goal.
Can you flash that screen?
And red was below 50.
Below 50.
Can you read off all those names?
No, but we see that, so Allie had a higher goal, so she had a much higher challenge. So we were making her work really hard. And those are the kids.
So that becomes challenging to that top student. They get a big goal, and then now all of a sudden they have to really work to achieve their goals.
So you're actually the combination of the two. All right, so that's it. So do we have? So we're really excited. So you guys can get started probably as early as next week. We're going to give you guys instructions and accounts on how to log in. We're going to get all of this stuff signed up for you. Next week's actually going to be really exciting for us. We're going to be going to the National National Math Teachers Association Conference in San Diego, so I don't know if you know about that. So we're going to be actually showing this off at that conference for the very first time. So that's going to be really exciting for us as well. But any questions at all about moving forward? Yes?
Can we play with our kids?
You know, you could set up an account as a mock student and play. It'll affect the goals slightly. So if you get really high up there, I mean, who knows? Like maybe the kids will like be will be a big challenge for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
When you miss X number of problems and you level down basically to kind of start re-spiraling, depending on the level, is that coordinated with how many problems you would level down? So as it gets more complicated and then you miss X number of items, how many item numbers, are they static, or depending on the complexity of the math, is it like, oh, you're higher math, so you miss less, you auto level down, or it's easier content, you miss more, and then you level down?
Yeah, it'll probably require more time than I have to explain it, but it utilizes item response theory to be able to calculate and weight the value of the questions. But a lot of it depends on what their current level is as well, so a little bit of both. But it's basically trying to measure their current level of frustration in a way. So I guess that's the easiest way to simplify. There's not a set number, not a set percentage. It's what we call mastery. So if they show mastery, then they go up. If they show less than that, then they can be brought back down. Okay, good, great question. But you'll see how the system's going to start to work once you get the kids into it, and then you'll start to get a feel for it. Any other questions? Any other questions? All right, so we're really excited. You guys are excited, right? And then you guys are excited to go home.
So once we have everything all ready to go with the kids in, I will let all of you know, and then you can get started with your kids.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. And we're going to hang back if you have any questions that you want individually answered.
I want to know if this is just I was going to ask, is
They're probably PLC All right, ladies. Good luck.
I think everybody enjoyed it pretty much. You get a sense for how much practice you can get in. You got it. The kids, you can see they're on it. They get so lightning fast, but it takes them a while. But just simply getting on the keyboard, having success keyboarding, you know, especially students with very low ability, it's like, to them, being able to control this thing, have success, it really gets them, okay, I can do this.
Why do you think this motion stick? Because I don't know, I have one swings and I was like,
There's
okay, well, what were you doing on the swings that gave you motion? Yeah, it depends. And he was like, I know, but I didn't feel like there's, I was like, okay, maybe it's one of those where they take a 5-minute ride and he gets motion sick. Yeah. So I didn't send him to the high school. It sounded like it was one that the family already knew about. I guess I don't say I also missed the money. It was like going back now. Initially I was gonna send it, like, motion sick. I get it. Okay. And then he, I had him go get some water and come back to me. Yeah.
Yeah, we can use the same principles for literature. I've already thought through on how we program it. But you probably have some good ideas.
I go, yeah, it's a good theory.
You guys
Yeah, so
I know exactly what you're doing too. I know it's changed. Two kids, I mean, two kids that show up. The research, so we have one from
I figure we can motivate them to be fully day after day we just set it up in this environment.
Oh, yes, yeah, so basically it's a work
Saying,
first thing, soon I need another
figure out which way the teacher is running. So
associated with
you didn't get a topic,
what they're talking about.
it doesn't matter.
So you try to like the whole through, and you ask them to say, what do you think?
Yeah, we still want, because
So
they're in,
they will start
so they're always
writing
gonna be.
things and putting words in, and you can tell by
No, that's
picture
exciting, I'm really.
what words they have in the vocabulary. And then you will take all those words and put them into a database that counts for the student, and then you will assemble those words into sentences.
Yeah,
Which one the name is.
Yeah, we're actually,
So you
we're
get them,
moving into,
so this is a
actually, we're testing this out, and then in the next few months, we're actually gonna be testing, like Alzheimer's. Or early onset. Yeah. Yeah, who would have thought that third grade math program would be used to STEM?
Well, but it, they won't be able to put it in. And so you just are keeping track of the words that they do.
The thing is, they're lacking is the social aspect, so they do these solitary things.
Just like we're doing here.
And it goes so far, just a mental exercise, but if you do the social, it creates a,
So
what do you call
they
it?
literally A through Z, capital letters and small case,
oh, so they're doing
randomly
like
sorted,
like a system
you're
where
asking
they
them
kind
to
of
read
everybody
those
do it
Yeah,
letters.
together. Oh my god,
And
so they have their cherry yoga class and then they have their math class?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You or I,
So when you
if
have
we were
social
to machine
environment,
that out,
it
the
really
alphabet,
helps
we
bring
could
in
do
the-
it, the randomly sorted alphabet, in less than 5 seconds.
the
A
brain's
preschooler or kindergartner
ability
might take
to really
to do that, or even longer.
grow
So
and then help.
getting that 2 minutes down towards the 5
That's
seconds.
what we're hoping. We don't know.
Okay.
For
We're going
them
to do a research
be able
project
to
on that. So.
recognize the
Okay, sounds
letters,
great. Well,
associate
thank you
the
so
forms,
much. Yeah, looking forward to
you
it.
know,
We'll be in
and
more
to
contact
start
and then
assembling the
we'll
whole thing.
get that other
So you're doing
information
this
to you, like how quickly
things.
would you like
You're
that?
figuring out what
If you can get to me before the week, because we're going to be
working down
traveling
to
for
the
the
top,
days
you
we'll be
work
able to get that stuff uploaded.
Okay.
letter recognition.
So
But
right,
anyway,
right.
I'm
No,
talking a
yeah,
lot,
yeah,
I need to know what your ideas
If
are.
it takes you a
Well,
little longer,
Those
if you
are
just use
amazing
synergy
ideas, and
and then
what it sounds like you're doing is both, right? You said top down, bottom up.
Yes, that's what I gotta,
You
I
wanna
gotta
think
figure
about
that out.
it.
I know my last assistant was
Yeah.
really good at that, but
So-
I
Yeah,
got
just
somebody new, but I'm like,
select
Just
text.
thinking about it
There's
over here, I'm
PDF
thinking,
and
all right,
there's
so if
text,
you
so
look at things
select
like
Okay.
text,
levels,
then you
like
copy
what
and
you do
paste
for
it
your
and
math,
put the necessary
Yeah.
information in.
okay,
starting
sounds
kids
good, and
out
then I can
where
just cut out
you're
the
doing
last
all that
names.
other
Yeah,
data
don't need any of that, we just
just
need names because
word
that's
use
all.
and such,
You need to
and
identify
what
themselves.
do they have vocabulary that lexicon?
Okay, and
And
probably
then
first thing the
starting
last
them out for a
initial,
bottom
first
level
two
is
Well,
last
they
they
can
have to
change
be
your,
able
they
to
can actually change your name.
have
after you
rapid,
submit, so we don't-
automatic ability
Oh, okay,
to
so it
name
doesn't
letters, so
Yeah.
you start out with
You
that
have enough to get
piece,
started
right?
and
And then
then
you're doing it
and
just as
actually
you described,
the key
right,
words and
your
everything.
upper, lower.
Oh, okay, sounds good.
So they're doing
So the
that,
kids
and
come up
then
with
you're
some
gonna
really
wanna have
creative
that
names.
association,
Well,
right,
that's
the
very
phone and drafting piece, and
Okay,
voice
sounds
recognition.
great.
Then,
Well,
Alright.
thank
Then
you.
No,
looking
thank you.
at
So
all the
this is,
next level, like when
Okay.
you say levels, I think
I think you
a
just gotta,
sequence, so when we talk
have
about
you-
learning
You got it.
English language or anything, right? Yes, and so then just building
Yeah,
this
this is
level is a
especially
function
neat
of what we
because a
come next
lot of
on
these
that
schools we start off
continuum,
with,
and
we've
then you're
already,
just going,
you know,
going, going.
spoken to the
I'm thinking that when you get
the
to
teachers
the
or,
place where kids are
Letters,
rapidly
sounds,
have
so-
automatic, yeah.
Letters,
Okay, we're like, okay, we had
sounds,
no
Well,
preconceptions
they're
at all.
hard.
the word
No,
say
they
no.
really
Yeah, well,
I
I
mean,
like
I
going
have talked
part
about it
leveling,
with,
right, when you say
my
that, you would start, so if they have the
my
letter
Title
names
I
and
team
sounds,
that
then they have to be
we
able to
were
put
talking about the
lines
budget
together,
for next year,
diagrams
and I
together.
put in the
Then
money
they're looking
to
at putting,
fund this for next year as
you know,
well.
the next
And they were
steps,
like,
you're
well, what is
doing,
that? And you got it spelled
consonant
wrong.
diagrams,
Well,
vowel
that actually
diagrams, all
is-
these things,
I know, I
vowel
think it has to
units,
do with
Yes,
probably
it's
licensing
all
of
these
the
things.
cards.
Especially,
It's got an
you
I
know,
instead of an E.
every
Yeah, it's,
one,
yeah,
one
silly
syllable
website
word that
available,
they know.
but the thing is, we
Right.
can't
Top,
just right,
spot,
so-
you know?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly, that's
So
what
we actually
And
just
in
got
order
these.
for them to know those words and be able to read
Uh,
them with the amount of
yesterday,
automaticity
we
they
didn't have it.
need, right, like
Uh-huh.
what you're saying
Oh,
here, it's
good job, Dan. Give me
milliseconds, fractions of a millisecond.
Yeah,
So anyways, I would, if you guys would entertain that
So there we
idea
go, so-
for your project when you get to Fluency.
So
I mean,
basically, you know, so it's
my-
like, it actually,
when I
it
think about
actually
it,
came
the
out
only
to work out.
concern I would have, because somebody
Yes,
said, well,
it's
you
really
could then
bad.
have
Like,
them,
everyone's like,
how
"Please,
rapidly could they
Fluency."
read phrases or
I
sentences?
know, and everyone just
I
goes,
would
no.
say,
So I
you don't
looked
want
at it
them to
many
get
times,
to a
like,
place
I
on
look and I'm
any
like,
level
nope,
where
this
they're
is correct.
rapidly reading
Yeah.
a
So, okay,
sentence
that
or a
makes
phrase,
total
because
sense
you
now.
don't
Or you
want
guys
to train
made it
their
make
brain
sense.
how
Yeah,
to
exactly.
decompartmentalize from
It's like we
contextualized
intended to be.
what you want them to
But the
do
intelligence of
is you
Fluency.
wanna come up
Okay, and then,
It's the only domain name that
at
was
different
available.
lexicons.
It's like Fluency.
You wanna come up with interesting.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay,
no,
well,
so-
sounds great, thank you so much.
They
Yeah,
find
no,
errors.
thank you. No, thanks for
You want
coordinating
them
this
to
and
read them out loud
we'll
to
get them,
show that they
get them
read.
going. I know they're.
So you're
going
holding
Right.
them accountable, but you
Well,
want
yeah,
them
they're actually starting next Monday,
and
so
job them
they
reading.
haven't quite
As
started
well as
yet,
they know
but
they're
this
gonna
could
get
be also
scored
great
based
thing, I mean,
on the amount of
you know,
reading they
the
do.
testing
But
mostly
you
goes
don't
much to
have too
morning,
much
they still have
emphasis
afternoons, I mean,
Yeah.
No,
why not?
we want to
This is a great way for team building in the
They have to
afternoons.
have
Exactly.
that
We
as
actually
their
ran
moving
a lot of
forward
like
because
pilots
that's
last
how,
year.
right, it's
After
everything's a
AZ
unit,
Bear,
and we know
and usually, you know,
utilization
exactly,
as an
there's
end
like,
goal
what are
is
we
essential.
doing here?
Now, the thing that we're doing, I
Times.
think that we're
Right.
They're
doing
this
is
and like, oh, this is exciting.
so
it's really great. It's really energized.
Fluency.
Wonderful,
Great.
well,
Great.
great, thank
Gotta
you
give
so
them
much,
a
and
book
just so
that
you
they
know,
love.
on the
Right,
way
so when you
to
think about.
get out of here,
absolutely agree with
just
What
I'll
we
be
will have
exploring
done
to the right.
To the right.
is enable
It'll
them
take you
to
straight
read
out
the
to the
book
front.
That's great to
without
know.
Okay,
looking
Sounds great.
So we will give them the fluency, but the
Oh, and
teachers
I'm like
now
seeing who else.
teach them